Hello there! Welcome to MRMNG Draws. This is Goblin Slayer. So, when deciding the style, I wanted to factor in how the series stays surprisingly grounded despite having a lot of supernatural elements. For example, how item storage is a part of our MC's design. By virtue of the setting, we have a very clear idea of what our protagonist can and cannot do. People run out of ammunition, their blades become dull with repeated use, equipment requires maintenance, and a lot of time is spent on tactics and preparation. It feels less like the now common gamey MMORPG, and more like the traditional D&D worlds of old. All of these features led me to a couple of different iterations until I came to this. Something a little more seinen and comic book-esque when compared to modern contemporary anime, but not so far removed that it would be unrecognizable. I tweaked a couple aspects of the helm and bulked up the body proportions accordingly. If it wasn't obvious already, yes, the Goblin Slayer's pose and armor are entirely a reference to Dark Souls. With the other companions I followed the same process, adding more detail to fit the new style. For example, you can see this on the priestess robes, where I threw on more embroidery. One thing I didn't like about the original Goblin Slayer design was the weird jagged upper leg armor he has. But other than that, he strikes a very unique silhouette. In a world where we invent ever increasingly ridiculous hairstyles and colors, here we have an MC with none of those staple features. The same can be said for the cast, with most of them possessing a deliberate element that throws off their symmetry. A bow bracer, a feather on the headdress, shoulder-slung leather armor, or just the way they wear their clothing. I also like how there were attempts to showcase the different cultures the characters came from with their attire. Native American tribal influences, facial hair plaiting, this attention to detail adds a lot of personality and charm. I'm not really great at colors, but given the already strong emphasis on line work I had, I figured going for the flat graphic blocking to be the best approach. Just very simple filling under the lines followed by shadows, nothing really special to comment on here. Now that the blocking's been done, this is where I start tightening up the previous line work and balancing the dark shapes with the lights. You're probably wondering why I didn't do this before. The reason is because I forgot. However, a much more legitimate reason would be that when you add color, you are changing how the shapes interact with each other on the page. If you have two empty spaces defined by line, adding color onto them alters their value, which is how bright and how dark they appear, which can mess up your planned silhouettes, especially in a group shot like this. So there we go, yeah, that's my actual reason, we'll go with that. Which brings me to the post-mortem self-review part of the video. With regards to composition, I'm reasonably happy with this. I didn't have enough foresight to draw all the characters on separate layers, so it's actually kind of fortunate it worked out the way it did. My favorite part is the priestess's light color scheme, which makes her stick out within this trio of darker characters, but as a trade-off, I think I could have placed the Lizard Man and Goblin Slayer a lot better. His arm kind of blends into the browns of the Lizard Man, a problem that I could have solved by switching the lizard with the maiden. I do like how there are a lot of elements that weave the eye in and out. For example, with the Sword Maiden, her scales lead you towards the cowgirl, whose arm and basket leads you towards the guild girl. We've got a nice little Z motif from the Goblin Slayer here to the bow to the priestess staff. And there you have it, the Goblin Slayer with some of his entourage. For example, you can see all the items our MC has on him rather than it feels less like the now common gamey MMORPG and more like which brings me to the post-mortem review with regards to composition, you know, I've really been neglecting the art side of this channel for the last couple of months, sorry about that. But since I made this video, I kind of feel like I have the format down now. This is the kind of video that I want to make, at least on the art side of things. So I do hope you'll stick around for it. Thanks for watching and do let me know what you'd like to see next.